Hey everyone, today we'll be setting up road tubeless. This is a tire I had previously set up, but I am not happy with the tape job on it. I've had the stands no tubes tape in it, and it's not holding up air very good. So today I'll be setting up this tubeless essentially from scratch, setting up the tire all new, all together, all new tape, all new sealant. So I thought it was going to be a fun video to show you how it's done. Without further ado, let's get to it. Okay, so this is the tire and the wheel. It's a Roval deep dish tubeless ready with a Pan Eraser Gravel King TLC. Now this tire is relatively pliable in terms of how they normally come. I have a different tire I had previously set up, and this is a tubeless tire. Had it set up tubeless as well, as you can see from all the material dried up in it. And this is the Challenge Strada Bianca 30 millimeter. Now this tire is hell on earth to put up. So relatively to it, this Pan Eraser is very easy to set up in terms of tubeless. So everything you'll see here today is going to be exactly the same, only the tire setup, as much as like mounting it on the wheel, that's going to be different. But everything else is going to be 100% replicated between every tire setup and every wheel setup. Now the only real caveat to the wheel is that some wheels, like this one, are already going to be tubeless ready. So the rim tape is already going to be set up for you from the factory, and some will be just flat out, aluminum or material or carbon material sort of set up. But then the spokes are going to be differently set up because they can come in from the top. So really that's the only difference. Okay, so I've got the tire and the wheel here, and this is a Pan Eraser Gravel King and a Roval 50 millimeter Gravel King 32 TLC tubeless ready. Now everything you're going to see here in terms of what I do is going to be replicated to any tire setup and almost any wheel setup. There's no real secret behind it. However, don't get discouraged if your mounting isn't going to be as easy as I do it here. This is the tire, not me. I have a different tire here, and this is the Strada Bianca tubeless 30 millimeter. Love this tire, absolutely brilliant tire. The only problem with this tire is it's hell on earth to put on the wheels. You need like metal, tire levers and sort of all sorts of junk in order to set these up. The Pan Erasers, you can pretty much use your thumbs. So no real secret to them. So I'll put this aside and we'll get right to it. Okay, because I'm setting up this wheel from already set up tubeless, but I'm going to set it up from scratch because I want new tape. I'm going to, remove the tire from the wheel and everything. Now, because this is already set up, it's going to be a good idea to, grab a few shop towels and then get started from there. So really what I'm doing is just taking the tire little by little and pulling it away from the rim. So again, like I said, this is a very pliable tire. So I can do this with my fingers. But again, don't get discouraged. I'm not kind of a Hulk or anything like that. This is just a very easy tire to set up, mount and demount and everything. So again, don't get discouraged. Trust me, I've been there. Just take the tire off, however it is. And as you can see here, already a lot of sealant here. Now this is not a review video, but this sealant is the Orange Seal Endurance. Not a big fan of it. It makes a huge mess. Doesn't seal properly, as you can see here. This tire lost all of its air overnight. So it makes a big mess, but not a lot of sealant. So I'll pause the video here just for one quick second. But really, all I'm doing here off video, you just clean up my work surface a little bit, making it a bit more ready to get this done. So a little bit cleaner here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take off the valve. As you can see, the valve is going all the way through here, through the tape. And I think you can see the tape is kind of not really adhering to the carbon here. Really common with carbon rims that the tape will not adhere properly. Now this could be something that I have done wrong or you have done wrong, but again, in my experience, this specific rim tape, this is the Stan's No Tubes, isn't great in the 21 millimeter for the road rims. So gonna have to do it again. So let's go ahead, take off the valve stem. Now sometimes the valve stem isn't coming out amazingly well, so I'm gonna use a bit of pliers, being very careful not to, you know, scratch anything or damage anything or break anything. So really just taking it off. No real secret here. Now, very important, the valve will come with this little bit of a seal here. Hard to focus, right? Important to keep this. Also important to make sure that it's not torn or compressed too much, because this is going to hurt the seal of your tubeless. So just inspect it visually, carefully, and make sure all of these are clean and not compressed. So you know, off video again, I'll clean these up a little bit better. And when you take off the valve stem, again, it comes with another seal from the top that's supposed to seal through the tape. So again, just make sure this is not compressed or torn or any such thing. Inspect the valve stem. This is a relatively long one. I think it's an 80 millimeter because the rim is a 50 millimeter. So yeah, just go ahead and inspect it, make sure everything is a-okay. Okay, so real next step is to take off the current rim tape. So I'm going to do that now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to find where I have it doubled up. Right in here it's doubled up. You'll see when I set up. So you set up all the way through and then you double up like 2 or 3 inches. So really what I'm doing is just finding this part and just really carefully prying it away with a screwdriver. After I pried it away, the initial pry with a screwdriver, this just comes out by hand. Again, sometimes like you see these videos and everything seems to be just a little bit too easy, just a little bit too fast. I assure you this is super easy. Doesn't come out any easier than that. Now if it doesn't, again, take a utility knife, score it, peel it off little by little. Just make sure don't hurt the carbon. Don't pry on the carbon. Don't do any of these like movements on the carbon because it's really easy to break the lips of these carbon rims. Now the next part is super important. What we are going to do is we are going to clean this up thoroughly. For the next step to work, we need this surface to be clean and dry. Super important that it will be clean and dry. So really what I'm doing now, I'll do it off camera just because, or I'll, you know what, I'll do it on camera, but I'll do it fast, you know, one of those, right? So take off shop rags, and clean this up really carefully. So let's go ahead and do that now. Okay, I'll pause here for a second, and I'll show you some very common pitfall with setting up these tubeless, right? So people very often look at, the surface, and the surface here is clean and it's dry. But then when you roll over the rim, you'll see that the lip here, where the tire sits, where the bead sits, is dirty, right? Now all of these little ridges will hurt the seal of the tire. Now on the tire itself, we'll do the same thing. We'll clean it up, just make sure that the tire is free of all of these debris. So really make sure you clean this up really carefully and make sure that all of these are as clean as possible. You're not going to get a new rim. So this rim is about 5 years old. Seen a lot of life. So you're not gonna make it perfect. So do as clean as possible, but don't expect a new rim. So I'll go ahead and continue to clean up this rim. So now the tire is clean, the rim is clean, the rim is dry. What we're going to do is we are going to tape it. So I'm going to go, this is where the valve goes, right? So I'm going to go right on the other side. I'm going to take the tape, open it up, and then I'm going to start sticking it on the rim. I'm going to make sure I'm centered, right in the center, like so, right over here. And then as I go and I stretch it, I'm going to keep sticking it and moving back and sticking it again. So, like so, right? So, stretching all the way, centering, putting it on the rim. Stretching, centering, and really just following through, making sure it's centered and not causing any problems. And when I get back to where I have tape, I'm going to make sure that I double up about 3 to 4 inches. Now you can go more, 6, 7, doesn't really, it's not rocket science, you don't have to be accurate, but just double up a little bit so you get good adherence with the tape. Now, last thing is to cut this. Okay, after it's cut, then I'll just go over with my fingers, making sure it's stuck all the way through to the rim. Sorry for these noises, but it is what it is. And then just making sure it's adhered properly on the rim. So now we have a full tape job on the rim itself. The rim is clean, the rim is dry, and we can go ahead and set up the valve. So what I like to do with the valve is to take a thin screwdriver, much thinner than the valve itself. So I'll find the valve. There it is. Really just hunt for it with my finger and then pierce through the tape. Okay? And that's it. That is the size hole that I have here. I don't really know if you can even, oh, you can. Okay, so there it is here. And you can see it. It's much tinier than the valve itself, but I'll show you the reason I'm doing this. So now I'll take the valve stem, again, just making sure it's clean, put it inside of the seal, make sure that the seal is clean as well. And then as I punch it through, right, what you'll see is that this seal will end up tightening on top of this hole, as I tighten it from the bottom. So this will create a much better seal than creating the hole exactly the size or anything like that. Again, from my experience, it's a lot better. So after I do that, I take, remember that little seal that we had before, and the kind of nut, I guess, and put it all the way on top. So this needs to be hand tight. You don't need to use any pliers here or anything like that. Just hand tight is enough unless you find problems. Now, this part here is what you will find maybe the most annoying in this video. This tire will come on really easy. Again, I assure you, I am not a kind of Hulk. I don't have any stronger than average fingers. This tire is just great at coming up on the rim. But any other tire, any other tubeless tire that I've ever had other than the Gravel King 32s are just hell on earth to put up. So I know they're hell on earth, but this one isn't. So So really, after I do this, what I like to do before I set up any sealant is to fill air in the tire. And obviously it's not going to be perfect, but just get it seated. It's kind of an initial seat of the beads. So let's go ahead and do that. So before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about what I use in the air compressor in order to set up tubeless tires. So what you would normally do is use one of these, right, with sort of a Schrader adapter here. And these are great, right? These are great. However, what I have found in some tubeless setup, these are not enough. They're not passing enough air through them in order to seat the bead in place. Normally this problem isn't as apparent in road tires, mostly in mountain tires, but I have seen some road tires that have done that. So what I like to do in cases where this is happening, you can grab one of these. Now this has no restriction whatsoever. It doesn't wait for someone to press on it. Essentially it just pushes air all the way through, makes a whole bunch of noise. But it's really pushing a ton of air through the compressor, so you can get 140 psi passing through this, and then the tire will just pop right up. So if this is not working for you, I find these great at solving this problem, but I suspect this one will be enough for today. Setting up on my air compressor. My air compressor is just under here. Really not just you know, one of the small ones, not special. So let's go ahead and seat the bead here. Okay, so this tire is seated. Obviously you can, well, maybe you can't hear it, but it's losing air, which is perfectly normal because there is no sealant inside. But mostly it's losing air through the valve. So if I close down the valve here, I'm not even hearing any more air coming out. So that's great. So what I'll do now is I will take off the valve stem and then put on sealant. So normally, again, this comes up just finger tight, comes out finger tight. Nothing crazy. And I have here a syringe, and I have the orange seal, the original formula, not the endurance one. Shake it up. And what they say here on the back is for 700C tire, you would use 29 millimeter to 59 millimeter. I like to be smart about it and just use whatever. So. I'll go about here, so about 40-ish to 45 milliliters or whatever. I have found no difference in sort of handling or anything like that. And what I'll do, I'll inject on the side. If you inject on the top, it will come rushing down. If you inject on the bottom, it will seep through the side. So what I like to do is just shove this all the way through to the end and just really push it through. And it will just drip all the way to the bottom. And you can see here, no mess at all. It just sits here on the bottom, doesn't stay in the valve almost at all. And then put the valve stem back on. Again, finger tight here, Schrader, and let's pump it up. I don't know if you can hear it, but you can sometimes hear it kind of pushing through to places where it needs to and sealing them up. So yeah, this tire is all set up. Now what I do on the compressor, I don't set it up all the way through. You can see I can push these through. So after the compressor is seated the bead, I'll just take it off and with a hand pump, pump it to 80 psi. Okay, so I put 80 psi in it, and you can hear some air. So what I'll do again, just using the sealant, shake it up inside the tire, and that's it. Completely silent and all set up. So this is the one I set up earlier. This is the one I set up just now. Normally I put them up right away, go for a ride, but it's 7 p.m. So I expect them to lose a little bit of air overnight. But then I'll pump it in the morning and go on a ride. And that's it. We've set up tubeless tires. As you can see, the process is simple. It's not scary, it's not complicated, and you can do it yourself with very basic tools. You see, I haven't used any sort of complex tools, haven't even used a tire lever. So go ahead and try that. I didn't plan on touching this in the video, but I've been running road tubeless for 5 years, maybe even 6. I can only say good things about it. With the right tire and rim combo, it's a great setup. So happy cycling, and I'll see you in the next one.